think there's a common theme here this morning. Everyone, I've been having microphones on all over the place and music, and every device that's connected to the internet seems to be going bing and bong, and I can't turn them off. And so if there's anything else going off today, forgive me. Just take a little seat on our blocks, stroke books, and bring the heels in towards the groins. Take the knees out wide, and just wriggle through the spine a little bit. And we're going to let ourselves come into a breathing exercise. So we're going to take the right hand and just place the index finger, middle finger on the forehead, and use your thumb to just gently block the bottom of your right nostril so we can breathe in to the left, and we'll breathe out through the left as well. Now, when you block a nostril off, it kind of automatically starts to slow your breath down. If that makes you feel at all nervous, you can always just unclose the nostril and come back to a normal breath. And the reason that we close the right nostril off and spend a little time breathing through the left is that it actually helps us settle down, tap into the right hemisphere of the brain, which is more creative and feeling, empathetic. We'll take the next breath in through the left. We'll close the left gently and open the right to exhale. Inhale through the right. Close and open the left to exhale. Inhale left. Close gently. Open right to exhale. We'll just continue. We'll take the last breath to the left. And then gently bring the hands back down to the thighs. Let the fingertips come onto the collarbones. Bring the elbows together so they touch in front to the chest. Inhale them high. And make angel wings, so we draw them up and out to the side. Down back into the ribs and then across the chest. So getting a little bit of retraction and protraction through the shoulder blades, a little bit of flex in the spine. You might notice that as you lift your elbows up, magically, your knees lift a little bit higher as well. See if you can relax them out so they're not quite so joined up with what the shoulders are doing. Make another couple of rounds. And then let the arms float out nice and wide. We're going to bring that left arm across the chest and lock the right underneath just to draw the shoulder a little further round. As we breathe into the back of the ribs, you'll feel the shoulder blade just stretching gently. Now we'll float the arms out wide. And take that to the second side. And we'll release the arms from that. You just untangle the legs. We'll come back to lying on the floor. So I'm going to move my block towards the back of the mat. Use the hands behind so I can lower myself into the floor. Keep the knees high for a moment. And then draw the knees in towards the chest after I've wiggled the hips out. Just placing the hands on top of the knees. It can make some circles in the air. So just drawing the knees together but away, and then letting them come in towards the spine. In towards the body. We're going to lift the spine just a little off the floor. So as you bring the knees back in, you'll start to feel your tailbone lift. Try and draw the abdominal muscles in a little more as well to assist with that, rather than pulling on the arms. So you're just accentuating that movement through the pelvis, and a little bit of work in the lower spine. And then we'll take the knees in the opposite direction a couple of times. See how that feels. And then we'll bring the knees back in towards the chest and take the hands and interlace them, fingers around the right shin. Bring the left foot to the floor. I'll slide that down the center line of the mat. Flex both feet, spread the toes, and try to have the toes pointing directly up towards the sky. I'm going to continue to draw that right knee towards the armpit, sending the hips away. Belly draws in a little towards the spine. I'll draw the knees back in, swap over, and then bring that right foot to the floor, lengthen the leg out, flex both feet, spread the toes as well as you can. So it's an interesting one, trying to draw the knee in towards the chest and lengthening the hip bones and the sitting bones away at the same time. Kind of working in two directions through the torso, and then obviously the opposite leg is just lengthening out to straighten out the back of the hamstrings a little bit, and getting used to that maybe slight internal rotation in the thigh. Going to release from there and bring both feet close in towards your bottom. This time we draw the hands around the back of the hamstring, low down towards the groin, the right leg. I'm going to slowly press the heel up towards the sky. Foot is still flexed. And we're doing our best to straighten the leg out. Conscious we don't press into the back of the knee, but at the same time, I press up through the heel. Draw the belly down a little bit towards the floor. And then we'll simply lengthen out the left leg, same as we did last time, little internal rotation. Sometimes it's worth just checking, a little lift of the head to look, see that your foot is on the center line, not popped out to the side. It's quite strong around the shoulders, especially if you've got short arms. Your leg's going to be coming a little closer in towards the body, that's not a problem. Last breath here. And then we'll bring our knees back in towards the chest, feet onto the floor, and then that left leg comes in. Again, the hands close down towards the groin, interlaced around the back of the hamstring. Press the leg out slowly, as if you're trying to lift the ceiling away. And draw the belly down and the hips towards the floor. Ease the back of the leg straighter and straighter with every breath. And then we'll lengthen that right leg out. Take a little check that the leg's gone where we think it should be, or where we wanted it to be. And then we'll release both legs back in. I'm going to bring the feet still in towards the bottom. I'm having them on the center line. Keep the arms out wide like a crucifix, palms facing up. I'm going to cross the left leg over the right. So I'm just going to lift that up, bend it over, squeeze the thighs together. And if you're able to, you're going to lift your right foot off the floor and tuck your left foot underneath the back of your calf. Now, if you can't, you're just going to still lift the feet off the ground so you get some nice right angles between the thighs and the shins and the floor. And just squeeze the thighs as well as you can together. We'll take the left hand up towards the sky. I'm going to cross the right hand over the top of that arm. I'm bending at the elbows. We'll bring the palms together and then draw the elbows towards the knees a little bit. And try and press the shoulders down into the floor and keep the spine as flat to the back as you can. It's called supine eagle pose. And we're just doing this really so the body has a little bit of an understanding of how it feels and where to go. So when we do it in about 15 minutes time standing up, we'll just be as steady as we are here on the floor. That's the theory. I'm going to release the arms back out and untangle the legs. And we'll cross over to the opposite side. Let's squeeze the thighs together. Draw the knees in. See if we can wrap the foot round. I can on one side easily, can't on the other, so it proves that we're not all symmetric. This time the right arm comes up, the left arm goes over the top, bend at the elbows, find the palms or thumb, draw the elbows back down in towards the chest, roll the shoulders into the ground, try and keep the spine nice and flat. So what we're doing here is imprinting the posture onto the body. So it's not quite a shock to do when we take the standing posture. We'll release the arms out again. Take the legs up towards the sky and point the toes. Nice straight legs. And then we'll bring the knees in towards the body. Going to roll onto the right side. Use the hands to press into the floor to lift back up. We'll come into the front of the mat, up onto all fours, to cat-cow. So spreading the fingers out, making sure hands and wrists are underneath shoulders, not forwards. Draw the chest forwards and roll the shoulders back a little bit. Tuck the tailbone up towards the sky so the belly moves down towards the floor, even though it's held in. And then on the exhale, we'll tilt the pelvis the opposite way, around the spine, press the shins into the floor and let the head bow down. Inhaling, we'll come forwards again. Roll the shoulders back, keep the belly in. Exhale, roll it out. Inhaling through. Now your breath might be longer or shorter than mine. So the movement follows your breath. So you might be moving faster or slower than me. Not a problem. You can start off fairly shallow, just warming the joints up and ligaments, getting a little bit of juice into the spine. And then as you progress, you start to work a little harder, pressing down into the floor, drawing the chest a little further forwards. In terms of head position, the eyes should follow where the head is pointing and should be looking just a few feet in front of the mat when you come forwards, rather than trying to look directly out. You're thinking of a soft arch in the back of the neck rather than a crink. Come back into neutral and we'll take child's pose. We'll take the knees wide, toes come together. We'll sit down onto our bottoms. Let's take the hands out in front, so walking them out slowly, keeping the elbows off the ground. We come up onto the fingertips. Draw the belly in a little bit. Send the tailbone back. And then we'll take the hands over to the right side. Shoulders and hands as a guide, the same distance apart. So it's a child pose with a little bit of a side bend. Breathe deeply into that left rib. And then walk across to the opposite side. Just settling down. Nice deep long breaths into the side cage of the ribs. And then coming back into the center. We'll lift up onto all fours. Roll the shoulders back and bring the knees back underneath the body. We'll tuck the toes underneath down dog. So the knees lift off the ground. Send the hips back and up slowly towards the sky. Just going to move my block out of the way a little bit to walk my feet out into my down dog. Now you can pedal the legs slowly if you wish. Just moving from side to side. You want to try and keep the shoulders stable. So avoid bending into the elbows in this version. Feet are about hip distance apart and the heels hide behind the ankles. I want to make sure that the heels are just a little bit short of touching the floor. Now, some people have got more range of motion in their ankles so they can get a little lower. This means you have to walk the feet out to a comfortable distance. You're aiming to have a nice flat line between the wrists, shoulders and hips, and then from the hips down through the back of the leg into the heel. Now we're going to come back into a steady version of down dog and scissor the legs. So we'll take the right leg to the sky and point the toes, open the hip out to the side a little bit. Now put more strain on the shoulders. You have to work a little harder to keep the arms straight. Going to squeeze the butt a little bit and lengthen the toes up towards the sky. On tippy toe on the standing leg. And then hinge the foot back down to the floor. Keeping the leg straight. We'll take the left leg high. Again, just opening out the hip to the side, pointing the toes, relatively straight leg, lengthening out through the back. And then bringing that foot back down to the floor as well. You take a little breath from here. We'll walk the hands to the toes. So coming into a forward fold. Going to take a few breaths here once the fingers line up with the toes and the feet are parallel. Soften the knees enough so the ribs can rest against the thighs. So you could have quite a big bend in the legs at this point. They're not really warmed up. Hamstrings could still be tight from sleeping. It's not so much the sleeping, but spending several hours inactive. And try and have the weight even in the front and the back of the foot. Notice whether you're sitting into the heels or the toes. So you can move the hips around just a little bit over the top. Take one more breath here. And then we're going to slowly sit our bottom down and take the hands forwards. Nice line between hands, shoulders and hips. And then drive through the legs to lift ourselves up. And just let the hands come back down by the side of your body. Shake it all out as we walk up to the front of the mat. Arrive with your feet about hip distance apart. Let the arms float up to the sky, out to the side. Palms reach together. Hands come into the heart and we hinge over the hips. A flat back. until we need to soften the knees and then the ribs and thighs connect. We'll sit down into that chair pose again, taking the hands out in front. And then draw the hands in towards the heart. Shift the weight into your left leg. Take the right foot away from the floor. Step it back so you come into a lunge. Drop the heel in and let yourself open up into your warrior two. Now you might still need to adjust the feet out, move around or wriggle, that's okay. You didn't know it was coming, I knew where I was going. We'll take a little breath from here. You're going to slowly extend forwards over the front thigh, keeping the knee over the ankle. And then bring the forearm and the front hand down onto the inside of the thigh. You take the rear hand and place that onto the back of the sacrum so that palm just touches the base of the spine and the pelvis is. You open the chest towards the side of the mat. You can look towards the sky behind you a little bit, if that's easy in the neck. A little bit of weight in both legs. We'll float back to warrior two. Bring the hands above the head. Turn the chest and the hips towards the front of the mat. Now we spin on the ball of the foot of the back leg. We're going to allow ourselves to lengthen forwards. Bring the hands down by the body. Going to get a little bit of a swing through the arms and step it into the front of the mat. Hopefully we've all landed with our feet pretty much hip distance apart and parallel. Inhale the hands high. Bring the hands in towards the heart. Exhale slow and low. And soften the knees. Allow yourself to take the hands out into that chair pose. Draw the belly in. We'll bring the hands back in towards the heart. We load the weight into the right foot. Lift the left. Take it back into a lunge. Drop the heel in. And open up into that warrior two. Again, just taking a little time. Make sure the front foot is pointing forwards. Pelvis is stable. Neutral position. Now lengthen over front thigh. Forearm comes in. The back hand wraps around. Keep pressing into the back foot. Just check the front knee hasn't moved in towards the center line. I want to be pressing it out just a little bit towards the little toe. Now you should just be able to feel this top buttock on the back leg firing up as you press your foot down into the ground. So since your hand is there, you can actually grab hold of your buttock, see if it's actually doing anything, if it's lifting upwards. Now we'll come back into our warrior two. Float the hands again towards the sky. Rotate slowly, we're looking for some balance. You lean forwards over the front thigh. Hands come down, take a breath, and just step it into the front of the mat. Inhale high from the front of the mat. Hands into the heart, we exhale down to the floor. Come up onto the fingertips, onto the shins and lengthen forwards. Folding back down. You're going to take the right foot to the back of the mat. Turn the heel in for warrior two. We'll bring the hands onto the front thigh to open up. And the hands come high again. This time we rotate towards the front of the mat. We keep the back foot planted. When the hands come to the ground, we spin the heel and step it into a plank. Hips are high, shoulders over wrists. We push forwards on the tiptoes for half plank. We bring the elbows into the ribs. Turn the boot laces down. Keep the legs strong, knees off the ground if we can for other dog. Rolling the shoulders back. Breath in. Exhale. Slowly peel the hips back into that down dog. Draw the right knee in towards the chest. Bring the foot through between the hands into a lunge. We press out through the back heel, lift the chest a little. Then on the exhale of the next breath, press off the toes into the forward fold. Settle in, bring the hands onto the hips, soften the knees a little, flat back to lift up. We do that all over again, going to the left leg for warrior two. So coming down to the floor, folding it in, bring the hands onto the shins, lift up, lengthen the chest for half forward fold. Exhale down, left foot back, drop the heel in, hands onto the front thigh, check the knees over the ankle. Let yourself open up into your warrior two. Relax the shoulders out, stretch out through the fingertips. Float the hands to the sky. Rotate gently out and down to the floor. Spin the back foot when you're stable. Step it into the plank. Half plank as you push forwards. Take up dog. On the next breath, we lift up. Down dog. Belly's drawn in. Last breath here. Draw the left knee into the chest. Exhale the foot through between the hands into the lunge. A breath here to stretch out. Push off the toes into the forward fold. Hands come onto the hips, soften knees flat back. Lift up high. Exhale down. Slow and low. Fingers onto the shins to lift halfway up. Fold down. Right foot back. Let the knee come to the floor this time. Untuck the toes and bring hands onto the front thigh to lift up. Hands come out to the side. Palms face in. Hands are just above the shoulders. Lift up out of the pelvis. Square those front hip bones to the front of the mat. Press a little into the back shin. Bring the hands to the floor. Raise the back knee. Step it into the plank. Come with a breath for half plank. Inhale up. Exhale once. Inhale again. Exhale twice. Down dog. Now we'll draw the right knee in. Bring the foot through to the lunge. Take a little breath. Press off the toes. Allow ourselves to lift. Inhale high. Hands into the heart. Exhale down. It's that half lift again. Hands on the shins, tailbone and chest, different directions. Fold it in. Left foot back. Knee to the floor. Untuck the toes, hands onto the thigh to help the lift and check your knee is over ankle. Draw the bellies in. Lift the hands out to the side. And up to the sky. Down to the floor. Lifting the back knee, toes tuck under. Slide it back into the plank, breath in. Exhale forwards into the half plank. Bootlaces change for up dog. Shoulders roll back, strong legs. One more breath. Exhale up. Down dog. The left knee can come in. through to the front of the mat. We're in our lunge again. Take a little breath. Step it forwards. Hands onto the hips. And lift up. Inhale high. Bring the hands in towards your heart. We're just going to shake out the arms and legs a little bit. And then we're going to bring ourselves into that eagle pose again. So this time we're going to bring the toes together, but there's a little gap between the heels, so they're not quite touching. So rather than, if you bring the toes and heels together, your feet will be sort of spanning out a little bit. You want the feet to be pointing more forwards like they're on tracks. Going to soften the knees, squeeze the thighs together a little bit. Bring the hands in towards the heart. We'll take the weight into the left leg first of all. So we'll soften down a little further, maybe an inch or two. Lift the right leg up and over, and let's see if we can get that foot to wrap round. Take the arms out wide. Bring the right arm across. Left arm over the top. Bend at the elbows. Bring the palms together. Breathe. And release. Bring the feet back. Let yourself lengthen back out again. Just give those legs a little bit of a shake out. So we don't hold it for long, hopefully. If you're wobbling around a little bit, just, be safe. Take the hands in towards the heart again. Soften the knees, little squeeze of the thighs together. So as you take the weight into the right foot, you sit back down a little lower. Let that left leg lift. Wrap the foot over and round. Doesn't matter whether the foot connects to the back of the calf or not. Hands come out wide. You take a little breath. That left hand comes over. Right hand over the top. Palms come together. And we'll release back up. Bring the feet to the floor. Stretch it out again, a little wiggle through the legs. We'll come back up to the front of the mat. Feet are hip distance apart. Hands rise to the sky again, little back bend coming into that. Exhale through the heart and down to the floor. We'll step the legs back for down dog. And we'll bring the feet onto the center line at the back of the mat this time. And draw the left knee in towards the chest. And as you come forwards, you'll take your left knee to the outside of your left wrist. Bring the heel underneath the groin. Lower the shin to the floor. Walk the back foot as far away as you can. So you're going to take a couple of breaths here in this high position, just walking the leg away and letting the hips sink down to the floor so knees and ankles get a chance to open up. You're going to take the hands forwards, about shoulder distance apart, and just lengthen the body out and rest down. And you still keep the elbows off the ground a little bit, hands a little wider than the shoulders, palms pressed down. So we're not sitting into joints. And then lengthen the back leg away so it almost lifts the knee off the ground. And we'll lift the head, walk the fingers in gently. And bring the hands underneath the shoulders. We'll tuck the back foot underneath. Lift the knee away, roll the shoulders back. And slowly peel ourselves back into down dog. We'll just spend a moment here with the feet about hip distance apart. And then we'll bring the toes back onto that center line. Draw the right knee into the chest. Bring the knee to the outside of the wrist. Lower down gently. The heel is underneath the groin. Walk the foot back. Just letting those hips get used to the idea of tucking the toes eventually. And then we'll walk the hands forwards again. Remember, a little wider than the shoulders is a little easier on the shoulders. Just taking them out, sliding themselves down, lengthening out through that back foot. So you should be feeling a big stretch. You might have to stay up on the elbows, it's not a problem. Remember, you're just working out enough in that back leg to feel the knees start to think about lifting off the ground. It gets a little lighter. Quite a big stretch in the hamstrings and the abductors. And we'll the fingers back in. So lift ourselves back up. Tuck the toe underneath on the back, lift the knee, draw the belly in, shoulders back a little bit to lift into that down dog. And I'm going to start to draw my block forwards, so it's more or less underneath me. And then I'm going to come down into all fours. And I'm going to swing the feet out towards the right side. Just move the block underneath my bottom as I take the legs out in front. So I'm going to sit up nice and tall, just draw the flesh out a little bit to the sides. And then I'm going to take my left foot under the right leg and take the heel out to the outside of the hip. So I want the left knee to be pointing forwards at this point. I'm going to lean out to my left, just use my hand on the floor, draw my right foot back, and then place my right knee down onto the ground, shin through the arch of the foot, toes pointing towards the back of the mat, called deer pose. Now at that point, the hips are sort of rolling off to the side a little bit. So you want to draw the high side down and the low side up. You can keep the fingertips on the floor. You want to get to a point where you can start to kind of control what's happening through the pelvis. So the spine sitting up upright doesn't feel like it's doing a lot of work, especially in the middle of the back. It wants to feel nice and easy to breathe. So that's what we're aiming for. Now, depending on what your lifestyle is, how much sitting around, how much sport, how much work the hips are doing in given patterns, this might be an unusual pattern, and it might feel a bit odd to sit like this. However, this might be the way you sit on a Saturday night watching a film at home in lockdown, so maybe it won't feel odd. And release again, so just lean out to the left, untangle the legs. And we'll cross that over so the right foot comes under. Lean out to the right a little, left leg comes back. Into position. Take a little time to adjust. You might find it feels quite a lot different on one side of your body to the other. You might have a natural way of doing this. Same principles apply. Trying to lift low hip, drop high hip. And both knees still touching the floor the whole way through. release the legs back out directly in front. Heels and toes touch. Draw the right heel in towards the groin, knee out to the side. Square the hips to the front, a little bend in the knee. Foot comes back, hands onto the shin. Going to lift up and float over. So I'm going to lift up high, reach body forwards. Let the hands come to wherever they come. You can wrap around the foot, ankle, shin. Hands can be on the floor, not a problem. Try and roll the shoulders back a little bit. Have the head more or less in line with the body. You can still have a healthy old bend in that front leg. And then we use the hands to release back out. Cross over to the opposite side. So Janu Shirshasana, head, knee, toe pose. Translates to. Hands onto the shins, we lift up. Forward over. Have the toes pointing up towards the sky. Foot is a little flexed. And then we'll release. Now we're going to come into the final resting pose. So we're going to have the block to the back of the mat. Knees come high, hands behind. Roll the spine gently down to the floor for Shavasana. You keep the knees high if you wish, taking the feet wide and let the knees knock in. Hands come out to the side of the body, palms up. Just roll the shoulders underneath. You sort of lift and wriggle the hips out a couple of times to get the spine nice and long. And then if it feels good, you just gently take the feet out to the corner edges of the mat and let the legs roll open a little. Just close the eyes, breathe gently, and simply let the body sink into the floor. And slowly we'll begin to stretch those fingers and toes. Give them little wriggles, a little movement into the wrists and the ankles. Begin to breathe a little deeper. When you're ready, use the energy of that breath to stretch out in any way that feels good. And then allow a knee at a time to draw back in towards the body for the gentlest of hugs. And choose how that feels. Maybe rocking a little bit on the spine, or making those knee circles in the air again as we did at the beginning. Roll carefully on to the right side as we exhale. We're going to hold here for a few breaths. Just curled up into a nice little ball. And then use the hands to press into the floor. Slowly lift back up. So seated posture, whatever feels comfy, allows you to lengthen your spine and relax the shoulders. We'll bring the hands in towards the heart as we take a breath in. Closing the eyes, we'll let the chin drop. Beginning to exhale, draw the belly in. Let ourselves bow gently to the floor to seal our practice. On the inhale, the breath can lift the spine for us. Eventually the head and the eyes follow. Namaste. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me. See you soon.